The Los Angeles Clippers have did the most Los Angeles Clippers thing ever. And in breaking news, they have released Chris Paul and they let him go at 3 a.m.
Okay, can you give me an overview, Ron, of what's going on? Like, all I heard was he got cut at 3 a.m. How do I get fired when I'm asleep? Like, what's going on here?
NBA, man.
And by the way, Ron, if I'm getting fired when I'm asleep, you know what that means? That means I was fired yesterday. You just ain't tell me yesterday. That's really what that means. I was already fired yesterday. You could have told me this yesterday. Now, the question that I have is, how did it get this bad where we had decided we're out with this guy? Because we've seen teams in the past where it's been conduct that's detrimental to the crew, and it's ultimately just send you home, and they just decide you stay away from the facility. You stay away from the facility until we can figure out a trade partner or what we're going to do with you. In this particular situation with Chris Paul, well, Ron, he's arguably their best player in the history of their organization. They know who he is. They know what they're getting from him, and they're getting an older guy. And I can tell you from experience, when you get older, you get grumpier. So the bullshit that you was putting up with from him 10 years ago is probably even more now. And the last I checked, Gifted, him and James Harden ain't the best of friends. So that doesn't help the situation. So, but it's the Clippers though. So why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised?
So according to Lou Will, and we have other sources too, I also have a statement that was released from the Clippers. I'll read that here in a second. But according to Lou Will, you know, he has close ties with players from the Clippers organization and just the Clippers organization in general. But he said that he's heard from people in the Clippers organization that Chris Paul was very critical of players, coaches, front office, the whole situation, just in totality. And then they said that the front office just eventually had enough of Chris Paul's criticisms. I mean, we know how Chris Paul is. He could be feisty. He could be, you know, sarcastic and all of that. We don't know exactly what he said, but we can kind of, you know, put two and two together.
Sure. To your point, Ron, we'll put up with a lot of stuff when it's beneficial to us. So, Gifted, I'm pretty sure that this was going on with Chris Paul 10 years ago when he was playing with the Clippers. But you will tolerate this stuff with him when you got the best point guard in the league on your crew. When he's older and he's not as good, are you really listening to him cussing the coach out or telling the coach he don't know what the hell he's doing at this point? Because that's what's going on, if I'm being honest. You suck. You don't know what the hell you're doing. This offense sucks. That's probably what's going on with Chris Paul. If I'm being honest with myself, I think that's what's going on.
We get a lot of bombs early. I woke up and then I'm like, okay, Ron, he said the topic's about to see. When I saw it said Chris Paul, like what? I checked my phone and he legitimately got waived. My instant reaction, Ron, is they're not a good team right now. So like waiving Chris Paul has to be to try to open him space to get a player, but I'm not sure if that player can shift things. From what I did watch, because I believe Lou Williams did say something about it. He said that he initially was trying to hold players on the team accountable earlier in the season. That was the thing. He had to actually come in and clarify like the place he was coming from. But what did it apparently is he then criticized the front office. And there's one thing that I know. If you're a older player that's past their prime and you start going at the front office who took you on, that's probably not the greatest of things to do. And apparently that's what did it. That's tough, man.
But what's crazy about this, though, is that, Chill, to your point, it was 3 a.m. I mean, it wasn't 3 a.m. here, but he posted on Instagram before the Clippers released a statement. So like Chris Paul was up, it seems like, which is crazy at 3 a.m. But I think my initial reaction to this was, this is how you kill your brand. I think this is how you develop a negative reputation around the league. For a guy who was pretty serviceable last year with San Antonio, Chris Paul didn't need to sign with the Clippers in free agency. He had a lot of interest. He didn't need to go there, but he goes back there. We're talking about the franchise leader in assists still. We're talking about the guy who's still second in franchise steals to this day. So, and to Chill's point, arguably the best player in franchise history, and you couldn't even let him finish the season knowing he was going to retire.
How bad was it, Damian? That you got
that's
fired?
Crazy
we ain't even halfway through the season, and he got cut.
That's what I'm saying, and I think that I wouldn't go far. I wouldn't go as far as the scapegoat stuff, but maybe the stuff Ron touched on makes it a little bit easier to say goodbye when, like you said, Chill, he's not the best player anymore, but there's a little bit of tension there. He's not used to a team being so bad. He's a winner. We all know that he's a competitor. But then my other thought was when I sat with this for a while was, what would Jerry West think if he was still here, man?
Oh,
I
man.
think that was something that came across my mind as well. You know, a basketball guy understands the history of the game, understands how you treat legends, understands what the end of a career should look like. I think Jerry West would have been sick, man, about this all. So I know we're probably going to get to the landing spots, Ron, but that was my initial reaction to it all. It's just crazy.
It's a great point, man, because I think Jerry West would definitely not be a fan of all this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would even? Do you think it would have even gotten to this point? Because again, when stuff like this happens, right, Mars, for him to get cut, for him to get basically pushed to the side, and for this to be announced at 3:00 in the morning, this wasn't something that was just a decision that just came about that day. No, this has been going on for quite a while now. If Jerry West is in the front office, is this something that continues? Does it get to this point with him? I don't think it does. I think Jerry West is somebody who would have gotten in the middle of this, not in an authoritarian way. I think Chris Paul, from a respect for the game aspect, I think that he would have had conversations with Jerry West, and this thing would have probably gotten toned down.
Oh no, it was a surprise. Just seen it pop up on Twitter or X or whatever. So it was a surprise. However, Chris Paul feels, I guess, is the only thing that kind of matters. Because if it was me, I mean, I'm looking at making $2 million and I don't even have to show up to work. Like, oh, cool.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'm 4 years old. My team sucks. Now I get to stay at home and still collect a check. Like, I'm chilling. But if Chris Paul wanted to still be out there and hoop, I know he was just in garbage time against the Heat. That was tough. So maybe we didn't know. Maybe that was the last game he ever played, which would be definitely interesting. But I didn't expect it. I didn't expect the Clippers to just be cutting people or sending people home. But it's not like, in their defense, it's not like Chris Paul was helping them in their goal of winning.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why they did it. I don't know what conversations were being had. I don't know how long they were thinking about sending him home. I'm not privy to any of that information. But all I can say is if I was Chris Paul, I'd be celebrating right now. So, yeah.
Are you sure, Mars?
Oh, sure.
I apologize. What I was saying, Mars, is, you know, considering what your legacy is and what you've done, not just throughout the course of the NBA, with the Clippers particularly, like you actually made them viable when you were on that crew with Lob City, with Blake Griffin, and turning that thing around and becoming what you became. And for it to end like this, are you honestly just walking into the sunset like, thank you for the $2 million, I'll catch up with you later?
I mean, it's easy to say things from the vantage point of here where we're not actually in that position.
Sure.
So I'd like to think, yeah, I'll be cool. I mean, I say all the time, I don't care too much for legacy and all that stuff. But if Chris Paul does, that's what I said. I'm only speaking for myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I was Chris Paul, like maybe he's upset about this. I don't know. But for me, yeah, my team sucked. I was only playing low minutes anyway. You put me in garbage time down 40, and I'm 40 years old. Got me out here playing against the third stringers for no reason. Then you send me home to still collect my check. Yeah, I'm chilling. We obviously weren't gonna win no championship, so why I still gotta be here for? But
I will say Chris Paul deserves more.
That's what I'm thinking.
He absolutely deserves more,
especially from them, Ron. But if this was Cleveland, if this was somebody that he didn't have ties to like that, I think it's a little bit different. But with the Clippers, definitely from them, he deserved better. We could have handled this a different way.
Chill for sure.
The way they let him go, Ron. That's the problem.
Nah, I'm not even talking about him getting released from them. I'm just talking about a team situation where he deserves to be at this juncture of his career. Obviously, Chris Paul, he's ring chasing, but he also is somebody that can be in a fine leadership role. He's not leading the Clippers to nothing. These are veterans that are stuck in their ways. These aren't young guys that can be groomed. Chris Paul deserves to be on a team where either A, they are a favorite to win a championship, or B, he can help a group of young guys get over the hump. And like, it just wasn't happening with the Clippers. Like how Mars said, Chris Paul playing junk time for a team that is a junk team, it just doesn't make any sense. That's where I'm at with it.
What do y'all think? Do y'all think that Chris Paul even wanted to be there anymore?
Yeah, he did. Because if he didn't, then he wouldn't have signed there. Because the
things have changed.
I'm saying like after the fact.
I didn't think
yeah,
he knew they were going to be this bad.
I don't think he knew that either.
Changed since he initially signed there. I don't
think he's a quitter though.
I don't think he's a quitter.
Not a quitter. I don't think that makes him a quitter. I think it makes him like, yo, I don't got nothing left. Like this is the end for me. Like I don't think Chris Paul wanted to be there
this season anyway. So
he was quitting.
he was done after the season regardless.
Yeah, he was quitting.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way a guy like Chris Paul wants to spend his last season like this. Though. There's no way Chris Paul wants to spend his last season like this.
And I do want
to say though, like independent of however you feel about Chris Paul, if you're signing Chris Paul at this stage in his career, you know this is basically a farewell season. You understand that going in when you choose to pay him and acquire him. So then cutting him when you're going to probably have to retire his jersey a couple years later is going to be just awkward. Like I just don't think it makes viable sense because like you're going to have to face the music at some point.
And I'm going into the Hall.
What if they don't retire his jersey? They haven't retired Blake's. What if they don't retire his jersey?
I didn't think about that.
That makes it a bit more complicated now, though.
Made it way more complicated. Is Chris Paul better than Blake Griffin as a Clipper?
I think they're both equally as important to their franchise.
Look at Mars' face.
Is that even a question, Mars?
I think Chris
Paul is the best player to ever wear a Los Angeles Clippers jersey.
That's factually incorrect.
A significant margin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I'm still on that Kawhi Leonard logic. That's why.
There's not just Kawhi Leonard. There's also Elton Brand. Just relax. Just relax for a second, please.
I love
for
a second. Shout out to you, man.
There's also Elton Brand. There's Elton Brand exists, y'all. And then
Elton Brand does exist.
And then Kawhi in 21 was better than any Chris Paul we've ever seen. But as far as a career goes, Chris Paul for sure. But come on, y'all. Come on, be for real. But
my fault.
But honestly though, if they didn't
he was only there.
That wasn't a Los Angeles Clippers jersey.
Yeah, that was with the Buffalo.
Same
Braves.
franchise, but it wasn't a Los Angeles Clippers jersey.
Buffalo.
But
Braves.
no, I think they should retire Chris Paul's jersey. Absolutely. I'm not even trying to push back on that. But I'm saying they didn't retire Blake's. You know what I'm saying? So maybe their franchise was like, we've never retired their jersey before. Maybe we won't start now. You never know. But even though, I think we should also think about it like maybe Chris Paul was ready to go anyway, and maybe he's not as like maybe his feelings aren't hurt. Maybe he's like, because he can sign somewhere else, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I'm saying. Maybe this might not be like a terrible breakup just because it got put on social media. You know what I mean? Like maybe Chris Paul was done with this team. Like the way he's criticized this team. I'm listening to Lou Will talk about it this morning, and he's calling out the front office, the players, the coaching. He's calling out everybody. Chris Paul, obviously, my thing is this: you cannot, if you're Chris Paul, spend your last season like this.
Ox, this shit sound like quitting to me. You talking about to Damian's point? The reason why this shit sound like quitting is because
for the Clippers or for Chris Paul?
Yes, because this isn't even.
Wait, chill. For the Clippers or for Chris Paul?
I think both. I think more for Chris Paul than the Clippers. I think Chris Paul caused this.
Chris Paul didn't fire himself.
Okay.
Chris Paul did what he was. Chris Paul did his job. Chris Paul did what he's done his whole career. He's been vocal. He's been vocal.
Okay.
And James Harden don't want to hear that shit.
Now, when you could be,
he probably don't. He probably doesn't. But chill. When has Chris Paul never not been like this? We've seen Chris Paul on the court
and
in front of everybody.
And he's been able to get away with it when he was better. You're not that good no more. So you can't do that like you used to be able to do.
So if you're an assistant coach, you can't coach because you're not the head coach?
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I don't really agree with that though, because again, you signed Chris Paul. You know more than anyone how Chris Paul gets down, and you know that this is probably his last season. So you were aware of all these things before the season. So why get mad at Chris Paul for being Chris Paul? You knew that when you signed him.
Yeah, but
I don't get that point.
but I think that they expected this Clippers team to be really good. And I think they
That's the
expected
difference.
They expected Chris Paul to come in and give them good minutes and be the leadership in a positive way. But to Chill's point, I think Chill makes an excellent point where you have a guy now who's way over the hill, he's retiring. You have to question yourself as a franchise, is this guy causing all this noise making our life easier or harder? And I think that, when a guy's not producing, if it's James Harden doing it, it's a different story because obviously he's their offensive engine and things like that. But when Chris Paul is basically giving you nothing on the floor and also causing all this drama potentially, if we believe what Will's saying, I think it makes it a little easier to say, hey, I think we're just going to cut ties with each other and we could just both go our separate ways. So I think it definitely plays a part. If this was prime Chris Paul did this in his prime in the Clippers, but hey, you tolerated this as an all NBA guy, it's a Lob City, you're a good team and things, but now it's completely different. But I don't think Chris Paul was the type of personality that could sit there and watch them be bad and not hold people accountable,
Could you imagine?
That's why I'm saying
cutting 2016 Chris Paul?
You wouldn't.
No.
That's not
no.
a question.
You would get fired very fast if you.
Can't.
Okay,
Ron.
Ron.
No, you can't. Knock it off. That's not happening.
But Damien, I do want to push back just a little bit on something you said earlier before I got up here. I just don't think anybody when it's time to make a decision to whether or not you're coming to the Clippers or not. I just don't think you think about, don't forget they did waive Chris Paul. I just don't know. I don't know how much of a black eye this is on the franchise, especially if it's like a situation where Chris Paul really didn't want to be there anymore after the way things have been going. And maybe, so I don't know all the CBA rules. I don't know all the rules as far as free agency goes and the trade deadline. But if they're just trying to clear up a little roster spot to make themselves a little more competitive going forward, I think that's a business move that the Clippers desperately needed to make.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's just hard when you're a Clippers team that for so many years was living in the shadow of the Lakers. You shared the same stadium for a long time, and you're trying to make your own brand and try and get good guys like Jerry West in to help make good decisions. And then you have all these playoff shortcomings, and after that, there's rumblings of the stuff with Kawhi and circumventing the salary cap and all these things, and then you're treating a franchise legend as such. I think generally it's going to be a bad reception from the basketball community. So I don't think it does them any favors. And also, if they can treat, in some people's eyes, if they can treat Chris Paul like this, why would I sign there as a free agent? Are they going to value me the way they're supposed to value me if they can treat a franchise legend like this? I don't think that's necessarily true, but I think that's the way some players may think about the situation when they see it from the outside. That's the only thing.
Mars, you're a guy who doesn't like to deal in projection. You like to deal in fact. And what do we know? So what do we know for a fact about who Chris Paul is today? Not who Chris Paul was in 2018, not who Chris Paul was in 2013. What do we know about who Chris Paul is today? He's old.
Yep.
He's old. What he used to be able to do, he can't do it nearly as effective as he used to be able to. He can be very rigid. That is also a fact. He still thinks, by watching him play, he still thinks that he can play. Maybe not at the level that he used to, but on a level of on some level contributing. He still thinks that. Now, if he still thinks that he can contribute on some level, is it not ridiculous to think maybe Chris Paul is looking at this group and saying, I should be the one, because I'm the vet, I should be the one who I've been here the longest, not been here the longest, let me rephrase that. I'm the one who has the most experience. Nobody's been in the league on this crew longer than me. So I'm the one who should be the voice. When in reality, it should be somebody else. Is that projection, or am I projecting off of facts?
Projecting off of facts is still projection. Sure. It's just maybe a well-informed projection, maybe. Which is fine. You guys are allowed to project, otherwise you guys wouldn't be talking very much. Sure. The only thing we know is the Clippers have sent Chris Paul home.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If we weren't projecting, they would have been, Chris Paul been sent home by the Clippers. How do you guys feel about that? Oh, damn, Chris Paul. Next topic. That's what it would be. You guys have to project. I'm not knocking you guys for projecting. I don't have much to say. I'm not in the business of projecting things may have happened behind the scenes when I have no evidence to say it. I don't know what Chris Paul was saying in team meetings. I don't know if Chris Paul was demanding things of teammates and they weren't receiving it kindly. And then it comes out on a podcast 5 years from now that actually Chris Paul did nothing. And it's like, oh, well, look, the panel 5 years ago was saying Chris Paul was doing all of these things. And it's like, well, yeah, well, we didn't know. So I'm just not in the business of
which is fair, but I
defamation, I guess is the word.
And I don't think that we're trying to defame him, because a lot of this is speculation, because none of us were in the room when whatever was going on. With that being said, Chris Paul can be rigid. In the process of Chris Paul being rigid, he can be to guys like James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and these guys who, I'm $55-60 million on the books. I'm an all-pro. I'm an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell you think you're talking to? Talk to this dude. Talk to that dude. And that might be the problem with the Clippers right now, that you can't tell any of those guys anything. And Chris Paul recognizing that, you know what? Maybe I'm getting too old for this shit. Maybe this ain't for me no more.
Chill, real quick.
Yes,
Before
sir.
Real Talk gets in here and tries to blame this on Kawhi Leonard, let me just go ahead and say something.
Oh wow!
Because you know this. You know
Good morning,
You blame Giannis for Drew getting traded. Why can't he blame Kawhi?
You did do that. You did do that. You did do that,
and I was right. Remember, I told y'all he was gonna pay for that, and he's paying for it. But look, before Real Talk blames us on Kawhi some way, somehow, let me say this. Let's keep it real. Let's just tell the truth. That nigga sucks at this point in his career, and that's what you do with terrible basketball players. You cut them, okay? Now they need to not stop there. They need to cut Chris Paul. They need to cut Kobe Sanders. They need to cut Kobe Brown. Get all them weak niggas out the way so that Kawhi Leonard could play some basketball. Sign somebody that could play some basketball in the trade deadline.
Oh, like Kawhi said, we need more talent.
Exactly.
Oh, Kawhi did get him fired.
Exactly.
Kawhi got Chris Paul fired when he came out and said we need more talent. Do you guys?
But Mars, you know how much Mars, you know how much better Drew Holiday was when Giannis sold him.
Way better
than Chris Paul is right now.
Way better than Chris Paul. Yeah.
Okay, so
hey,
you're supposed to get, man. Come on, back in the day, long time ago, before all this civilization was the way it is now, before people got so soft, when the super old grannies and grandpas and stuff like that, I'm talking about in the days of when people were still moving, hunting and gathering and whatnot, right?
Oh, honey,
I'm talking about thousands of years ago, right?
Back when Chill was a child and stuff.
No, I'm talking about thousands of years ago.
Wow,
when you got too old to contribute to the tribe, you took a walk.
Would you just got some fresh air?
You could call it that. You took a walk when you couldn't.
You didn't come back from that walk.
When you couldn't contribute to the tribe no more.
You did not come back from that walk.
Oh, you went to a different tribe?
That was a one-way walk. That's what I was.
You can't help
last walk of your life.
If you believe in different tribes after a certain date, then yeah, sure, maybe, yeah.
I guess the better question to ask is like, is this the best thing for the Clippers? Like, is cutting Chris Paul outside of PR, all this stuff, is that open roster spot the difference in their season? Is probably the better question.
No, it doesn't not, because they cut Chris Paul because Chris Paul was over there trying to hold people accountable. Chris Paul was over there trying to get people to play the games. Chris Paul was trying to improve the Clippers by any means necessary, be it film study, be it practice, be it on the bench as a quasi-assistant coach. But there are players over there that lack accountability. There are players over there that don't like trying to get better at this stage of their career. They're just very comfortable going out there, getting their 25 to 30, the 3 games in a row, and then sitting out the next 3 games. Harden. Right? No. They're sitting out the next 3 games, right? So, shout out to Chris Paul. It's unfortunate that the Clippers have treated their best player in franchise history like this. However, he didn't need to end his career like this anyway, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Real talk, he's not going to end his career like this. And before we get to potential trades or landing spots, because I don't even want to say trades. We can't project any trades. We don't know how that'll work. But
There'll
if
be
he's
no
released,
trades.
I would like to get into a landing spots that you guys think he should go. But before we do that, I do want to read this statement from the Clippers. And I also want to just show you guys this, just so you guys can put into your imagination how people were feeling about Chris Paul when he arrived in Los Angeles. This was just a few months ago, y'all.
It was.
Times have changed here since you first got here. Let's go back to that time, 2000.
Hey, chill.
Man cry.
It was all good just a week ago.
Man cry.
It was real.
Cute,
everything was great, man. Now things aren't. We go from this to that, just like that. It's incredible. Now I want to make sure that I'm following you guys. So he hasn't been cut. He just was sent home until we decide what we're going to do with him.
So he can.
I mean, he said he got waived though, didn't he?
No,
Did he get waived, or did they just send him home?
No, so he's eligible to be traded on December 15th.
Okay, so he's still on the roster.
That's the first day he's eligible to be
traded.
traded.
They just don't need him to be at the facility and anything.
Just go home until we decide what we're going to do with you.
That's what I'm saying. He's living his best life.
I think the most likely scenario though is he is cut eventually. They'll probably try and find something. Yeah.
Because who wants to trade for Chris Paul?
Nobody is trading.
Okay, so you're gonna go game. Don't worry. Okay, so you're gonna go game.
I've been hearing that a lot.
This is the statement from the Clippers. Right quick, real talk before we get into this. I do just want to read this statement. So the Clippers said, "We are parting ways with Chris, and he will no longer be with the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career. Chris is a legendary Clipper who has had a historic career. I want to make one thing very clear. No one is blaming Chris for our underperformance. I accept responsibility for the record we have right now." And I don't know exactly who said this, but I accept responsibility for the record we have right now. There are a lot of reasons why we've struggled. We are grateful for the impact Chris has made on our franchise.
Shameful organization.
That PR answer.
Organization doing Chris Paul like that. But they've been a shameful organization ever since they've been planting fake trees to pay niggas on the side anyway. Shameful.
Chill on the trees.
Don't be quiet about that shit, real talk. Keep it in,
bro.
Organization. Keep it we've been knew who
Let
y'all
them plant
were.
them trees, man. Let them plant that, man. Chill, bro.